Vampire Weekend, yeah, it's pretty well known because of the use
we've
of
never
African sounds. And
even
stuff
remotely
like that.
approached playing African music.
Isn't it difficult to, when people always say that, oh, that's the band that uses African sounds, is it do you feel in some way maybe trapped in the style?
Not at all. I mean, I think there's a couple songs that are pretty overtly influenced by African music on the first record, but for the most part, there's any number of songs that really don't have much, if any, things that if you really wanted to dissect and point. And ultimately, I mean, we've never even remotely approached playing African music, mainly because we're playing stuff that we had come up with, and none of us know how to ever took lessons or studied African music theory or whatever. So I think it might be limiting just if that's how certain people came to the album and that's how they listened to it through a certain lens of the preconceived notion of what they should be hearing or what they should be listening for. But for us, I mean, we've always tried to synthesize and include pretty much anything that we liked or Western or non. So I think it really wasn't, that was a label ascribed to us, not really by ourselves, so we didn't really feel much connection to it.
Okay. On your new record, I hear a little bit more use of electronics.
Mm-hmm.
How did that grew? Was it a certain process, or was it like, oh, maybe we should use some other instrumentation for this album? Or?
Well, I think a basic thing for this record was we didn't want to make the same record, which I think was why only half the songs were kind of made in the same way. And so yeah, so that was just, I think, part of the way of building up songs is putting electronics in, and then sometimes most of the time, more often than not, they stayed because they worked and they sounded good. But I don't think it certainly wasn't a thing like, okay, we're making our electronic record. It was just we were making the songs as they came, and electronics happened to be there and become a part of it.
Yeah. What would you describe, besides the electronics, the biggest difference between the first album, Vampire Weekend, and Contra?
Well, I think that Contra has more of a range of vibes and tempos and styles, where there's two, straight up slowish songs, especially the last one in Taxi Cab. Ezra sings in different parts of his voice, whereas the first album was, pretty much all like in the height of his range. So yeah, I think pretty much we wanted to encompass a wider range of feels and styles. Whereas the first one was kind of all came together in a very similar way and recorded in a very similar way. This time we wanted to have a bit more of a range.
Okay, yeah, the last song you mentioned, I Think You're Contra, the name is also the name of the album. What's exactly meant with I Think You're Contra? Is that
well, I think I think
from the jungle in Nigeria? Or?
I mean, I think you mean Nicaragua.
Nicaragua,
but no, I mean, I think part of the song and part of the idea of the word is that it exists in so many languages. From I think Dutch, some guy was telling me that it means against in Dutch, which is what it in general it means. So I think the idea that this word comes from so many cultures and doesn't mean any one thing specifically. Certain things that word has been attached to. But I think ultimately it means against, but in any way you kind of want to take it.
In what way do you want to take it?
That's not really important.
No, why not?
Well, you want people to come to a song and kind of make up their own mind and hear it for themselves, and I think that's ultimately more important than anything. There's no like one definition that is the one.
Yeah, but it's because you are playing the music, so in some way it is important.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's important to me, but it's not necessarily important to other people. I don't know. Yeah. I think ideally you want people to come to the album and the songs, bringing their own perspective, and usually in doing so, they're gonna hear it differently than I do, or my roommate who hears the song probably hears it differently than someone, just living in Amsterdam, just coming across it or something like that.